Hello and welcome back to the That York City Fan YouTube channel. It's been a while, but I'm back for the end of year awards. I'm going to be going through a couple of things, team of the season, player of the season, goal of the season, a couple of things like that. And I'll do a quick review on how I felt the season went. So let's get into it. So it's been a pretty tough season for Matt and Julian Uggla as their first season at the helm. 3 managers over the course of the season, 17 losses, 17 draws, only 12 wins, and they did spend a lot of money in the summer on players like Dipo Akinyemi that they were hoping could push us up to the top half of the table. It was a 20th place finish for us, 1 point off relegation. We really scraped it towards the end. We thought we were second bottom of the table at one point, and that was when we really thought we were going down. I think one of the reasons for this is the managers. Mikey Morton started the season and he was not very good, and we got off to a bad start. Neil Ardley came in, started off. We were doing quite well, had quite a big unbeaten run. And then we weren't playing so well, and he was kind of telling the players that they weren't good enough. He hadn't had a transfer window to fully buy enough players, or his own squad. He hadn't had a summer or a pre-season to teach them tactics, and he was kind of saying they weren't good enough. He got sacked later in the season. Then Hinchelwood came in. He started terribly. 6-1 loss at Altrincham, one of his first games. And then he turned it around. And kind of think that it's him telling the players that they are good enough. And they did play very, very well in the last few games, beating a lot of top sides, including Chesterfield and Bromley. So we ended off the season well, but just scraped our place in the National League for next season. So I'm going to do the team of the season now. I'm going to do a classic 4-3-3 lineup. It's not what York were lined up in this season, but I just thought it was the easiest way to portray it. So in goal, I would have to say is George Sykes-Kenworthy. He did really start to lose his confidence later in the season, but he was our only solid keeper in a season where we had a lot of struggles with goalkeepers who was solid when it came to penalties as well, saved a couple of those. One against Maidenhead, against Gateshead as well. Rory Watson almost sneaked into this place. He came in later in the season and actually started to play very, very well. But I don't think he played enough games to earn this award. So George Sykes-Kenworthy is my goalkeeper. So my left back would have to be Adam Crooks. He's been pretty solid this season, again in a shaky defence. Scored 2 goals. He started quite a lot of the start of the season and then dropped off when Ardley came in. Came back in for February when it was kind of a slog. We really weren't picking up many wins. And then he came back for the last 2 or 3 games, I think it was, for Hinchelwood, and actually showed a lot of promise. So he could be a very, very good one to look out for next season. Another left back who deserves mention is Latif Fairweather, who I really enjoyed watching at the start of the season, but another player in our team that lost confidence across the season. So Adam Crooks is my left back. So my first centre back would have to be Ryan Fallowfield. Now he's supposed to be a right back, and he did play right back for a lot of this season. But I say centre back because when Hinchelwood came in, we needed a centre back for one of our games, and he came in to play at centre back, and he was a revelation. He was brilliant. Although he's not the tallest of players, he was very, very good, very strong, and always showed desire. Did get sent off once in the season, but that doesn't matter. He scored a couple of vital goals as well to grab us some much-needed points across the season. And he was the captain for a couple of games as well, or for quite a few games actually. And he always showed the fans that he cared for the club. So Ryan Fallowfield's my first centre-back. My second centre-back is going to be Callum Howe, another player that's played as a captain a couple of times this season, always shown passion and has been a great tall defender for Ariel Jules. He scored a goal against Maidenhead, which was a very, very important point that we got away from home there under Neil Ardley. He's always been a very solid defender for us this season, so Callum Howe is my second centre-back. Now, another strange player for right-back is actually Dan Batty. He was injured for quite a lot of this season and normally played centre-mid. And again, I say right-back is because when Fallowfield had to move over to centre-back, Batty came in to play at right-back under Hinshelwood, and he was very, very good, very solid. Was always a very, very good passer, but he's always been kind of a DM, holding back to win the ball. But he was very, very good at right-back and a good defender and a good addition to the team. So Dan Batty is my right-back. 3 in the middle for midfielders. But one that's going to be holding back is Patrick McLaughlin. He has just signed a new 2-year contract. He's been at the club for a number of years. Another player, he's quite old, but another player that's always given his all, although he has made a few mistakes this season. I think towards the end, a lot of players found their form under Hinshelwood when we were starting to play a lot better, and he was no different. He played very, very well under Hinshelwood and always gave his all for the club. So Paddy McLaughlin is my DM. A creative midfielder is going to be Alex Hunt, who came on loan from Notts County. Another player under Hinshelwood that did come through with Ardley, but another player that played a lot better under Hinshelwood. He was creating chances, always passing the ball around. So I hope he can come back next season. He would be a great addition to hopefully playoff challenging team next season. My third and final midfielder is Marvin Armstrong. He came in very, very late in the season, only played 6 games, but he was brilliant. A box-to-box midfielder who was always willing to put in a big challenge. He scored a very big goal against Bromley, and he's going to be a very, very good addition to the team. I can't believe that Barnet let him go for free, but we got him on free, so he's here to stay for next season. Another player out of position on the left wing then, Maz Kuyar is playing on the left for me. I've always loved Maz Kuyar since he came from Hereford. I think it was in 2022 on loan, and then we signed him on a permanent deal. I've always liked him. He's always been a very quick, creative player, and he actually went back on loan to Hereford in the middle of the season, then started the season and then ended the season as well. But for me, he always felt like a creative player that was fast, and always when he was on the ball, I felt that he was dangerous and he was going to create a chance. So Maz Kuyar on the left wing. Another player out of position is Dipo Akinyemi. I put him on the right wing. I had to because of who's playing striker. He did actually play on the right wing later in the season when Sam Fishburn came in on loan to play at striker, but this is a no-brainer. Dipo's been exceptional. He's been everything we bought him for and better. He's been strong, powerful, tall, and he's just been a great, great finisher. And he scored some beautiful goals this season. And he's here to stay for next season, so hopefully he can do even better. Now, my striker is the captain of the team, John Lewis. It's been a weird season for John Lewis. He hasn't performed so well a lot of the time, but he has, in the end, scored 7 goals, and 7 very, very important goals, including late winners against Southend and Aldershot as well, which gave us some very, very big wins and much-needed wins. If he hadn't scored those goals late on, then we wouldn't have stayed up. And I think that's enough to show another player that's been very, very strong. Not always given his all, to be honest, but another player under Hinshelwood that I felt has been reborn and a new player. So Lionel John Lewis is my captain and my striker. So now moving on to a bit of a mean one. I'm going to be saying the flop of this season for me. A player that came in, we all thought was going to do really, really well, and then played really poorly. This player ended up getting a red card as well. It was Quidden Castro for me. Came in last season, scored against us last season, came to us in the summer. We all thought was going to be very, very good. Took the number 10 shirt, very creative, attacking midfielder, good at free kicks. And he came to us and he just wasn't very good. He never looked like he cared. He never played very well. He got a red card. He was just quite lazy for me. Quim Castro, player I don't personally like, and I'm glad to see the back of his contract has been terminated for York City. I hope he can find someone that will take him, but I'm glad he's left us. So the flop of the season is Quaven Castro. So on to, personally, my best match of the season. These are both, I'm going to do worst match as well, but both of these are matches that I went to. My best match this season was the 2-0 home win against Woking on the second to last game of the season. The atmosphere there was just electric. There's a huge crowd, almost sellout crowd for us. It was a very positive day for me. I went with a friend and we had a very good time. It just felt like something had changed in a weird way, not to sound cheesy, but something had definitely clicked that day, and the club felt like it was going somewhere, although it was obviously the last game of the season. It gave me a lot of positivity for next season, because then it felt like we were definitely going to stay up, and we did end up, but it was a lot more nerve-wracking on the last day than it should have been. So my personal worst match, I didn't actually go to the 6-1 battering against Altrincham that we lost. But I did go to some higher scoring games where we did concede quite a few. I went to 3-1 versus Rochdale, and a couple of 3-1 versus Hartlepool, a couple of others like that. But my personal worst game was the 1-0 loss to Dorking. This was when Ardley was almost about to leave. It was just a very negative game, a very boring game, very cagey, and then they ended up scoring from range later on off the crossbar, and that was just quite demoralising, and it felt like we were not going anywhere. A big contrast to the 2-0 win against Woking, which happened about a month later. But it was just a very boring game, and we were given the impression that we didn't want to win, and that's often how I feel Ardley set up the team, in not to go out there for the win, but to go out to get points, to get a draw, if needs be, rather than going for the win. If we went for it that game, then I think we would have won, because we were a better side on paper than Dorking on that day. My goal of the season would have to go to Dipo Akinyemi. 2-0 win against Bromley. A playoff chasing side. Hinshelwood's second ever win. It's a beautiful goal. He gets it just over the halfway line. Half volleys it way over the keeper. It's kind of a mix between a volley and a chip. It was 0.04 expected goals. That just tells you how good of a finish it is. So yes, there we go. Dipo Akinyemi v Bromley, goal of the season. Now moving on to the final award, the biggest one, Player of the Year. For me, this is a no-brainer. It has to go to Dipo Akinyemi. All season, he has just been an excellent player. He has suffered a few injuries, but he has just been brilliant. He's been a rock, and he's been just... his finishing this season, as you've seen with my goal of the season, it's just been spectacular. And he's always shown the fans, another player that's shown the fans that he cares this season, and he's always willing to, go to them, and always very fun as well. So Dipo Akinyemi is my Player of the Year. I personally feel very optimistic for next season. We've made quite a few summer signings, and all of them I've been very, very pleased with. There's a lot to look forward to, I feel, next season, but that is a matter for another day. I hope you've enjoyed the video, and I'll see you next season.